American Muslim 360 radio broadcast.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا
American Muslim 360 is we will never quit. American Muslim 360 is #1 Muslim radio station. Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Assalamu alaikum, Jummah Mubarak to you. This is Friday, inshallah. Today we have 2 Jummahs for you, one from the East Coast and one from the West Coast. At 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from Jacksonville, Florida. Dr. Suleiman Yang will be delivering the khutbah today. That will be 10 a.m. on the West Coast, 11 in the mountains, 12 in the central, and again 1 p.m. on the East Coast. Then at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, 12:30 Pacific Standard Time, then we will have Imam Amin delivering the khutbah from Long Beach, California, the California Department of Corrections Muslim Conference, Muslim Chaplains Conference, and inshallah again that is 12:30 on the West Coast. That's 1:30 in the mountains, 2:30 in the central, and 3:30 on the East Coast. 2 Jummahs for you this weekend, this Friday morning. Again, welcome to American Muslim 360. I'm Thomas Abdul Salam, the twin servant of peace. And inshallah, today we have, my program is called Straight Up. And inshallah, today we're going to continue. We have been discussing, excuse me, aqeedah. And today we're going to look strictly at Warith Deen Mohammed. And so we're going to be playing some clips of Warith Deen Mohammed. And as much as possible, we would like for you to join in the conversation. You can always press 1 on your phone, and that will bring you into the queue. And then you too can comment, ask questions at that time. Before we get started, we also want to remind you that the Muslim Journal, A Time to Be Grateful event will be taking place December 13th, 14th, and 15th in Bermuda. Please visit muslimjournal.net for more information and registration. With those things said and done, inshallah, we're going to first of all recap a little bit and then begin to move into our discussion. And again, we hope that you will participate heavily in this discussion. We'll be right back.
The reading experience is extraordinary. The magazine is unlike any other. It's Aziza, the world's window to the American Muslim woman. Aziza has stories of remarkable women, articles of faith, decor, travel, fashion, and much more. Aziza covers all aspects of Muslim women's lifestyle and reflects her in the most beautiful way. Subscribe today at www.azizamagazine.com.
Right, inshallah, this morning we're going to again discuss aqeedah, as I term it, the belief system. And what do you believe? In other words, how do we think, process? What is our perception? What is our philosophy? And inshallah, what is our ideology or ideology? And for those of us who follow, study, listen to Imam Warith Deen Mohammed, we have let's say a specific understanding on certain topics that may not always agree sometimes with the, and I say general body of Muslims. Not that we have a different belief, but it's how do we explain what is our theology on a thing, even whether it's heaven and hell or the angels, Jesus being a very big topic, and particularly for those of us who come from Christian backgrounds. But even in the wider Islamic community, Jesus is still a topic of discussion. And what do people believe about it? I think on Monday, I believe it was, I was telling you about a Jummah I went to. And this brother, his topic was Jesus. He was well over his head, way over his head, in trying to make the discussion, or have the discussion. But he was making statements that, first of all, most likely untrue, not based in anything but maybe even unclear hadith. But sometimes, in matter of fact, he started the conversation, when I think about it, he started the conversation saying, I want to talk to you about the aqeedah, and I believe he said of Jesus Christ, but he said he wanted to talk about the aqeedah and what we believe. And then he went on to making certain statements. I would call them erroneous statements. And I think a lot of people, several people in the audience, considered it to be the same. But just as me, I wanted to go up and talk to the brother, but it's not, I wasn't from that masjid. But I saw other brothers approaching him afterwards to have a discussion with him. And today we're not going to discuss Jesus, but I'm just using this as an example. But there are many things. So what we want to do is I'm going to play some clips, play them one at a time, on statements of Warith Deen Mohammed. And these are all taken from his talk called Creator and Creation. And so we're going to play those. And I want us to discuss them in the area of, you know, what portion, what is this section? Or, I mean, is it theology? Is it philosophy? Is it ideology? What is it? And I may not have one. I have one on several things. I think we have about 8 clips here that hopefully will get us through most of the morning if we have a lively discussion. But one is to see or maybe demonstrate from my point of view how I listen maybe to Warith Deen Mohammed. You may or may not accept my approach, but this is how you say, how do I understand the language of Warith Deen Mohammed? It's again, it's like saying, what is the aqeedah? What is the philosophy? What is the theology of Warith Deen Mohammed, and i.e. this community of people? So when we say the language, a lot of us may take it as what he said, the words, and we repeat them and we pass them around as, I don't know, as though they were cash money, I guess. We send them out and post them everywhere and all that. But we're not, it's not the language in the sense of just the words or just the quoting, but can you derive from it a philosophy? So when you're having a discussion with someone else, you can employ, explain the philosophy that you have by following this man. So on Wednesday night we asked, so what have you gained? What have you gained by being a follower or student of Warith Deen Mohammed? And this is what we should have gained. We should be very astute in the language of Imam Warith Deen Mohammed. All right, so we're going to play the first clip and just listen and then think about philosophy, theology, ideology. Think about those things and let's see, where do you think this falls? And sometimes it can fall in more than one place. But again, let's think about it and let's ask ourselves, so what is our takeaway? What is our takeaway from this language? All right? So again, this is Imam Warith Deen Mohammed from a talk called Creator in Creation. And here we go.
Allah Most High says in the book, Qur'an, in the chapter of the surah that is titled An-Nahl, وَسَخَّرَ لَكُمُ اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ وَالشَّمْسَ وَالْقَمَرَ وَالنُّجُومُ مُسَخَّرَاتٌ بِأَمْرِهِ. And he, that is God, has made subservient to you the night and the day, the sun and the moon. And the stars make obeisance, that is, they submit and render service, the Amrihi, by his command, by the command of God, that is. And also, why not? The Most High God says, وَعَلَامَاتٍ وَبِالنَّجْمِ هُمْ يَهْتَدُونَ. And by the signs in the creation, and by the stars, they are guided. أَفَمَنْ يَخْلُقُ كَمَنْ لَا يَخْلُقُ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Then is the one who creates like unto the one who does not create? Will not you reflect? There is but one God, that is Allah. There is no God other than Him. He is the Creator, and everything else is creation. He created us, created Adam, and God says in His book that the parable or the likeness of Jesus' birth is that of Adam. And He created him from dust. And again, God Most High says in the Holy Book, Qur'an, that if He wished to take a son, He would take one or choose one from among those He created. Therefore, we must understand that whatever we worship beside God is creation, because God alone is creator. To worship Jesus, then, is to worship creation He's created. And to worship Jesus is not to worship the Creator, because Jesus is not Creator, He is created. And to compare Jesus or any other with Allah as a God is wrong, because the one who creates cannot be compared with one who does not create. And God Most High also says in our Holy Book that the the creation of the skies and the earth is a bigger creation than the creation of man.
All right, inshallah. That was in Warith Deen Mohammed, from Creator and Creation. Now you've heard him. Now ask yourself, so what, and I say portion, what category of aqeedah is he talking about? And what is the aqeedah? What is the belief? What is the right now let's call it the philosophy. Clearly he's talking about Allah, and he's painting a picture and using Qur'an first of all to set the conversation up. But he's clearly, the subject matter here is the Creator. Again, that's the title of the talk itself, just the lecture. But in this instance, he's talking about, maybe just to get the conversation started. So right now, he's talking about theology. He's talking on the theology of Allah. What is our theology? Now again, for the majority of Muslims, this language sort of Warith Deen Mohammed is not, it's acceptable. There shouldn't be any concern from anybody. But the point is, he's talking about the Creator. He's talking about Allah, and he's painting an understanding for us of who Allah is. Now, for the majority of us, we should all be well acquainted and already of this understanding. At least fundamentally, we are already of this understanding. But again, as this brother was talking in the Jummah, he had a certain worship of Jesus. Jesus coming back, Jesus is going to do this and Jesus is going to do that. He had a certain worship. His theology of Allah also included Jesus as a, well, let's say savior, I guess. If not for individually, but savior of the world. But now here, Imam Warith Deen Mohammed, he is drawing a very distinct line between Allah and Jesus. To worship Jesus is not to worship the Creator. To worship Allah is not to worship creation. So the concern, first of all, in this conversation is this. So what is my takeaway from listening to this short clip is, first of all, the theology of Islam, or the theology, how theology is the sort of the study of God or religion, probably more religion, but God being included in that. So, but here is one of the foundations and understanding that we should have, that there is a separation between Creator and creation. It should even kind of help us understand, we say we create things, but the term khalaqa, create, or the Creator, has a different meaning than how we apply it to ourselves. We're not creators. On a small level we can say yes, but when Allah, and what Warith Deen Mohammed is pointing out here, the Creator is above creation and is the originator of what we know as creation. When we quote create, we use creation to create. We don't take nothing. We don't borrow. It isn't that we say, I'm not going to borrow anything of this world. I'm going to come up with something totally on my own that has never, ever existed prior to me bringing it into existence. That's Creator. Now we use the term as applied to human beings, but here, Warith Deen Mohammed, from a theological and maybe a philosophical point of view, is pointing out, or this fine line, so to speak, is probably a huge line, but we may see it as a fine line, between us and Allah. I want to read to you from Qur'an, the Surah 41, Hamim, Sajda, and starting with Surah Ayat 9. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Say, is it that you deny Him that created the earth in 2 days? And do you join equals with Him? He is the Lord of the worlds. He set on the earth mountains standing firm, high above it, and bestowed blessings on the earth, and measured therein its substance in 4 days, alike for all who asked. Then He turned to the sky, and it had been as smoke, he said to it and to the earth, come you together willingly or unwillingly? They said, we do come in willing obedience. So he completed them as 7 firmaments in 2 days. And he assigned to each heaven its duty and command. And we adorned the lower heaven with lights and with guard. Such is the decree of the exalted in might, full of wisdom. Sadaqallah Deen. Surely Allah has spoken the truth. This is creator. Again, for the majority of us, we may say, of course, we already know this. It's not an issue about whether we know something or not. That's not the discussion per se. The discussion is, how do we, when I say listen or study, in other words, think of, at least particularly in the way I'm going to do it here, but also when you're listening to, it's really, you can be listening to almost anybody who's particularly given any particular information, but in listening to, well, let's say this, we'll go back. When I'm reading the Qur'an, it is broken up in ayats. We call ayats, or signs, or verses. And in each one of the ayats, there is a, let's say, a lesson. There's a certain philosophy, ideology, theology that we just read. Well, here is a verse, several verses on theology. But then the verse that follows that may move in another direction, or at least as it appears to us, that it moves in another direction or brings on another subject matter, a topic that sometimes seems to be unrelated. So when we're listening, and in the case today, but anybody, when they're listening, people talk, and I'm going to say in ayats, don't get me wrong, don't take this anywhere, I'm not trying to take it. But here is chunks of information, let's call it that way. Here is chunks of information that if I can follow the conversation, I too may see that in other words, maybe like a paragraph. When I change subject matters, I change paragraph. A new paragraph is developed. When we're listening to Warith Deen Mohammed, and again, this could be anybody, we have to be able to see, when does a new paragraph begin? In the sense of, particularly in this conversation this morning, in this concept of aqeedah. He's moving in a direction, he's talking about a thing, but now, even on that same subject matter, now we're in a new paragraph. So now what is this paragraph about in relationship to the paragraph prior to it, and let alone its connection with the other paragraphs that follow. So when we today, we're slowing down, we're putting sort of this conversation, this lecture, sort of in slow motion. All right. So let us, hopefully, you can chime in a little bit. I got these basically in the order in which they spoke, which he spoke. At least I hope I have them in the right order. But it really doesn't matter. Because we're just listening for, again, we're just listening to a paragraph. It doesn't matter whether we got the whole speech strung together, but It could be, but right now we're just listening to paragraphs. Brother Kareem, assalamu alaikum.
What struck my mind was the few words that the